Hi everybody, welcome to Season 5, Episode 10 of The Hard Truth Inside the Football History Podcast with me, Philip Ideson, and Darragh MacAnthony, the chairman and owner of Peterborough United. Now, we missed last week. I'll take the blame for that again. Travelling all through October, for hopefully not now until December, but thanks for joining me, Darragh.
Phil, the entrepreneur, expanding that business. I love it.
It was a good, hopefully it was an impactful 3 weeks. You know, there was lots of really interesting things for our business that was important for me to go and do and go and see.
I love hearing all that. You know, I mean, I had to travel as well. So I flew to the UAE to sign some documents for a few days. Then I went to England. So kind of like, it was kind of a whirlwind, you know. I watched us lose to Wycombe in Dubai, fly into England for the Blackpool win, and then back to America Friday to watch us get robbed by officials against Bolton. So yeah, it was kind of like very quick 7-8 days.
Yeah, and of course I missed all the games that we won, and then was able to watch the game that we lost.
Always the way. Always the way.
So before we go into our games, let's talk. We're recording on Monday, and probably an hour or so ago, Man United finally, I think we can say finally, sacked Erik Ten Hag.
Right decision.
Yeah, it seems like it's been probably a little bit too long in coming.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter's a massive football fan, so she was watching the Arsenal game with me yesterday against Liverpool, and we'd seen the United result just before. And I said, he'll be gone by this afternoon. And she was like, you think so? I said, guaranteed. If he's not gone by this afternoon, they'll have told him later, but he'll be done by Monday. Yeah. So when I got up this morning and I was taking calls, my daughter sent me a message from school with the headline, Ten Hag is sacked. You know, it's like, yeah. I mean, long overdue. They should have done it in the summer.
It's only the FA Cup that stopped them from doing it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and you well in the cup and whatever else, but you've got to look at the overall picture. Sometimes it's not just about, say, that cup, it's about the club. And you know, they had new owners kind of who've bought their minority stake, who seem to be controlling things. That was the time for them to go in with a fresh broom, you know, and do the business in the summer. So I'm surprised it's taken this long. I mean, when you see Manchester United basically, you know, 1 win and 9, you know, mid-table to bottom half in the Premier League.
I was looking at the table this morning, and you're looking up, you know, up, thinking, oh, they're in trouble, they're in trouble. Then there's Man United right there amongst them all.
See, they're not going to be in trouble in that way, but their season for Premier League top 4 is pretty much probably over. You know, again, you're taking the air out of the balloon. You're taking any momentum from recruiting in the summer. They spent some money in the summer. Jose Mourinho, I think, humbled them the other night, where his team pretty much played very well in Turkey against them. You know, it had to happen. You know, he seems like a decent chap, but he was out of his depth. So I think Liverpool got the right Dutch manager, that's for sure, in the Premier League. So, you know, when I look at the two personalities, I'm just not sure his personality was suited for English football. Sometimes cultural differences can come into play. And I've always looked at him in interviews and I thought, what kind of coach is he? What's he like with the lads? What's he like personality-wise? And he's just very dry. He's very, you know, and look, they won those cups and fair play to them, but they're no closer to winning a title than, say, Crystal Palace are. Yeah. So with all due respect, you know, if Radcliffe's serious and his people are serious, and they're serious enough to get rid of Sir Alex's global ambassador salary, I said to Darren last week, tell the main gaffer, I said, I'm happy for him to be global ambassador of Posh. I said it might be a free meal every week.
I was going to say, it may not.
$1 million a year.
Roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. It might not come with a couple £1 million.
So you know, now we'll really see what these new people at United are made of. Now let's see them pick their own person. Now let's see what they're all about. I saw Van Nistelrooy's got the job temporarily. Let's see what happens now in time. But I'm sure now in typical football players and dressing rooms is that their results will pick up. Chelsea won't like that because I think United are playing Chelsea next weekend. My tip for the top 4, and I was right about Chelsea. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so you know, it was a good weekend. Obviously, Liverpool yesterday were kind of below par, but you know, kind of did well to come back from behind and get a 2-2 at Arsenal. So well done to Liverpool. You know, Arnie seems to be exactly what we needed after Klopp left. So I'm sure Man United now are looking for their Klopp or their Arnie, you know, to come in now and give them a lift. It'll be interesting to see if they wait till the end of the season. If they hire Gareth Southgate, you know, let's not bother talking about Man United anymore, you know, on the podcast.
So I was going to ask you, do they take their time thinking that this season's already done? Or do they rush and think, you know, this season's only 9 games old or 8 games or whatever it is in the Premier League, and there's plenty of time?
Forget about the league. Forget about where they are. They go get the best person. Who's the best available person that can go in and change that football club top to bottom? Change the culture, change the dressing room. This time, when they recruit, do it properly, not just go sign loads of players from Holland and overpay and whatever else. Who is the right person for the job? They've now got loads of directors of football. They've got loads of football-based people there. This next hire has to be the right hire. Otherwise, this kind of like, long period of United not being involved in a league title or looking like winning a league title will continue for a long old time. So I don't know who the best person is.
Yeah.
So now they have to basically look at it and go, we have to change this now, and the culture, everything needs to change.
You talk about the culture before, and you say you're watching the interviews, and you're wondering if that's a good fit. Are those things that you can weed out in a recruitment process, or do you not necessarily know until you kind of? It's not to say it's too late, but until they're actually doing it in the job.
I think when you go down the foreign route, and I've never done it, I think it must be very difficult because you're looking at somebody, say, who's Dutch, like, Ten Hag, and you look at him in interviews in Holland and he's speaking in his language and what he's like, and he probably comes across quite normal, like an English manager. But then you translate it and he comes to England, he's just very dry. He's very, I wouldn't call him inspirational. I wouldn't call him, you listen to Pep Guardiola, you get motivated. You listen to certain, even right down to the Tottenham manager. I like listening to him, and, he's got a bit about him and a bit of charisma and character. And, you kind of listen to that guy and it's not quite there. So I don't know. Look, I'm not recruiting the next manager of Man United, but the people who are, and they're paid very well to do it now by Radcliffe and co, they're under pressure now to deliver, and they're going to have to deliver the right candidate. If the right candidate's out there, go and break the bank. You're Manchester United. You're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Go and get the right person in, and make the changes in what you need to do.
Well, let's talk about our games since we last spoke. So it's been a mixed bag, I think, for you. So you lost to Wycombe 3-1. You beat Blackpool 5-1, and then lost to Bolton just at the weekend 1-0.
So starting with Wycombe, we were solid. We were good for an hour. We went 1-0 up. So they'd been 2-0 up. We had 8 mad minutes. The manager furious about that, and I'd agree with him. And my message when I came into England, it was like, sat with all the management staff. We had some great meetings. And I said to the manager, he rang me on his way home after the Wycombe game, and he had his staff in his car with him. And it was like, obviously this is painful and the suffering. We're suffering. There's no doubt about it. There's times we're suffering, and we're all going to have to suffer together for a little while because of the injuries. We can't name a first choice left back and right back. They're both injured. We're suffering, but we can't keep blaming injuries either. So we've got to get on with it. We've done that all season. We've got 19 and 20-year-olds playing that were only meant to come in and play cup games and EFL trophy games and, help out and whatever. And they've had to be thrown in and play a lot of games. We haven't had a settled back four. We've named, I think, 9 different back fours in 14 league games. The goalkeeping area has been a concern. We've conceded nearly, 2.5 goals a game. And they made the change for Blackpool, and they brought young Nick in. And I have to say, in the 2 games he's been brought in, he's phenomenal because he's an attacking goalkeeper. If you look at the way he plays, I know our fans want to focus on the mistakes he makes. I want to focus on the things he can do. He can get us going. Against Blackpool, I think 3 of the goals came from pretty much him getting us going, because every time he gets it, he wants us to go as opposed to standing there and letting them all get back in shape. He's a phenomenal shot stopper. He's a big goalie. And we obviously lost the Wycombe game. Everyone was down. I think everyone was expecting us then to shit the bed against Blackpool. The young group came out and were phenomenal. Nevitt played as well. It was a phenomenal young group. We battered Blackpool. They played 4-2-4 against us. I said to Barry after 10 minutes, I cannot believe the high line they're playing against our players. They obviously think we were defensively, we're just awful. So they're going to try to overrun us and score goals against us. So we battered them. We then went to Bolton. We weren't as good as Tuesday. The front four were flat. That's sometimes the inconsistency with young players. It's usually maybe one of them might be flat, but all 4 of them were flat. Central midfield were phenomenal. Fair play to Ryan and Arch. And then the 2 centre backs, Oscar and Manny were colossus. But the goalkeeper was Gordon Banks reincarnated. I haven't seen a goalkeeping display like that in 19 years on in the club. He was phenomenal. He did not deserve what happened on Saturday. I mean, the saves he made, the dominance he had, what he did, he was just superb. And I mean superb. He saved us over and over to the point where 6 minutes go on the clock. I know I've seen comments from the Bolton fans about time wasting. I mean, with all due respect, we had 3 players go down. One with cramp that was substituted. Manny had been stamped on his foot by accident by their player, and he came off the pitch when they had a free kick. We're not going to take our tallest defender off to time waste with our physio when you've got a free kick you're putting in. And then the third issue, I can't remember what it was, the goalkeeper. He made a save and he thought he'd done something with his ankle. So again, it's not time wasting. It's 0-0. We're not winning the game. Peterborough want to win football games. And of course, Bolton is a big club and you go there and you want to get a result and whatever else. But Bolton were superb. They were better than us on the day. I'm not taking any credit away from Bolton. We weren't ourselves. We weren't at it all over the pitch. Probably too many of the 11 were subpar. But a good fraction of those players didn't deserve to concede a goal. The goalkeeper, it's the 96th minute. 6 minutes have gone up. Nothing's really been time wasted in injury time. 30-second substitution. And we give away a needless corner. The ball's going wide and one of our defenders kicks it out. Ridiculous. Because he blows the whistle. And again, it's just the thing where we've obviously killed the black cat. And we've got horrible luck this season on all fronts. 97th minute, I think the ball goes in. Our player is deemed to foul their player, which is really rich and ironic since Manny Fernandez was rugby tackled on every single corner. He went up to score, when we were attacking their box. I mean, we can show you the footage. It was basically they did that. The rugby tackled him. So the referee, big team, away, crowd, decides give a penalty. Last kick of the game. Nick makes 2 phenomenal goal line saves, and then the player pretty much, I think, scores with his arm. And it's just a ridiculous decision. And I have to say, and you know me, I don't dig out referees. I don't moan. But in 19 years, I have to say this season, I don't know what we have to do to help, but we have to improve the officiating. We saw it when we played against Birmingham. A referee, big crowd, 30,000. He's booking our centre half in the 20th minute for moving to the left and letting the goalie take a free kick, which happens up and down the country in every single game of football. But because the crowd booed and tried to accuse Manny of time wasting, the referee gives a yellow because he's under pressure. We need referees of stronger stature. We need referees who've got a bit more about them. We need a referee who in the 97th minute, a minute and a half into injury time when the corner is given, blows the whistle because it's the right thing to do. It's the easy thing to do. It's like, okay, we're a minute over. Yes, it's minimum 96, but there was no time wasted in the 6 minutes of injury time. Let's just all pack up and get out of here. It's the right thing to do. But no, he plays on. That happens. And even with the penalty again, things that happen during that, it's disappointing. I'm gutted for Nick. It's not that I want to find from the FA about referees, but what I want is better officiating. It's the officiating we've seen in League One this year, and I'm sure you've seen it down the leagues. Whatever's happening from training referees or who we're picking or what we're doing, the standard's not good enough at the moment. And we judge ourselves by our standards of the product, whether it's EFL commentary, whether it's the football our teams play, whether it's our behaviour off the pitch, on the pitch. Same has to go for referees. We have to have the best in class. And if they're going to be learning on the job to be the best in class, we have to pick the right ones. Because there's nobody I can put my hand on and say in League One or League Two or any of the action I've seen in the last kind of 15 games is going to end up in the Premier League as the next big thing as referees. If they're not there. I don't know what it's like in the Champ. I haven't seen enough of the football. But if you want to groom people lower down the pyramid to be in the Premier League, from what I'm seeing, the standard and whatever else, way off it. And I mean way off it. And that's just another example on Saturday. And I guess when you're getting kicked in the nuts and everything's going against you, that just happens. So, but, I'm proud of the group. I'm proud because defensively we look great. Goalkeeping-wise, we look great. That kid needs our backing. That kid needs a run. And as I said to the staff, at the end of the day, when you're conceding 2.5 goals, what's the worst that can happen? If you concede only 1, it's a hell of an improvement with our front four. So when we're good, we're very good. And I described it like this in the management. My job's to lift the staff. And after Wycombe, I was lifting the staff and saying, look, we've got to look at it this way. We're missing some key pieces. We've got no consistency in the back four we can pick. I know Bradford have had their own issues. We're missing our captain. We're missing some key pieces. And we're what's the right word? We're trying to do things the right way, but we're suffering while we're doing it. And we're giving away stupid goals and we're making stupid mistakes. And we can talk about it being a young group. And it's all great very well when you say how young we are when we win and how young we are when we lose. But here's the thing. Last year was a young group. But last year's young group, whether it be Ronnie Edwards or Harrison Burroughs, had played the year before. They'd had plenty of experience the year before. They'd gone to Sheffield Wednesday. They'd seen us choke away from home. They'd been part of that process. They learned on the job. So last year, they'd almost had a full year under their belt. And by the way, I'm not writing off any years because that's not me. I think we'll suffer and come to the point where we go through the suffering and then we're going to do some enjoyment as well. We're going to enjoy as opposed to suffer. But if you look at a lot of these young players that have come in, they didn't play last year. They didn't get the experience of last year. They're thrown into the cauldron. A lot of key pieces around them are missing. They're being thrown into the 11 to play now, maybe ahead of time. And what they're doing is they're learning on the job. So when they shit the bed against Wycombe and concede 3 goals in a panicked 8 minutes, so they do silly things, it's like learning on the job. And as long as you learn on the job and you learn from it, learn pretty quickly and move on from it, I think it will make us stronger. And we're all pretty much aligned that we're going to suffer. And people are going to be, oh, where you are on the table, and you've lost this game, you've lost 6 games, you've lost another away game, and you've conceded goals and whatever else. That's fine. We'll suffer through that. But when we're going to be good, we're going to be fucking shit hot. And we're going to go like a rocket ship. Because I know what I've got on our squad. I know what I've got on my staff. I know what I've got at the football club. I've got everyone that's on the same page. Everyone realizes that we are a page away from being bloody good. And, when you're the top scorers in England, and you see what we can do. That's all great and very well, but we're going to be better defensively. We're going to suddenly start looking like a team that's right. And we're going to get a lot of clean sheets. And, that young goalie, we can stay behind him, including our fans who maybe dug him out a bit. I think he's going to have a magnificent career. We all saw his potential last year. He had 11 clean sheets in 22 games before he got an injury and he made a horrific error that kind of mentally got to him. Yeah. So we think he could be special. And I think now we have to get behind him. That includes Jed, who's the most experienced person in the dressing room, and get behind him, because Jed's had his fair share of games this season. And he doesn't really get criticised, because obviously he's an experienced player. You don't see articles written about him. You don't see fans calling him out, but they call the young goalkeeper out at times. So we have to just get behind him. I'm very happy with a lot of other things. Our 18s on Saturday beat Birmingham's 18s 4-0. There's so many good things going on that you get caught up losing another football game, and it's frustrating. And fair play to Bolton. They deserve to win on Saturday. Look, bar the goalkeeper, we just weren't at it on Saturday. So this isn't me trying to be sour grapes. And I know Bolton fans to go, you're sour grapes, you're time wasters, and you're this, you're that. And you get all of that on a Saturday. Yeah. We just weren't at it. And, we'll see them down the road as is football. We'll see, and they'll be up there, and we'll be up there. There's no doubt about it. This league is so tight, compact, everything. At the stage we're ready to fly, when we fly, we will fly. And we'll put this period behind us and we won't revisit it. We will be very good attacking wise, we'll be very solid defensively, and we'll be strong and we'll be better for it. And we'll have a lot of players fresh in the second half of the season who haven't played a lot of football, and they're going to be key pieces. So I'm looking forward to that. I love my staff. I was over for 2 days. I spent time with all the staff. I love spending time with them. I think they're the best. I love spending time with my academy staff. I enjoy when I go to work at Peterborough, and I hope everyone else does as well. And I know they're finding it challenging with these young players and keeping them, losing to Wycombe and the feeling of that, and then going and battering Blackpool and the feeling of that, and then going and having that stolen from you in the 97th minute at Bolton and the emotions of that. And that's when my staff have to be the best in class to basically manage that and look after the players in there. And we're starting to see people like Archie Collins show his best. We're starting to see Joel Randall, even though the Bolton fans will disagree on Saturday, show his best. We're starting to see the key pieces from last year that were so good suddenly be very good. So I am still excited. Call me the eternal optimist, and all the bad luck and all the hits and all the things that happen. I think we're going to be a hell of a team. So again, it's not always going to be plain sailing in football. It's not always going to be 2 points a game straight from the bat. It's not always going to be champagne football, 70% possession and no injuries. We got lucky last year in certain ways. Maybe the luck has just caught up with us, and maybe we need to flip the other side of that again. But again, I'll go back to the officials, and I'll go back to, we as clubs need to help. So what do we need to do to help the Referees Association create and train better officials? Because that official on Saturday has to look in the mirror and go, that wasn't his best, nor were his linesman's best either. And I'd like them sometimes to hold their hands up and agree with that. And that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah, we get the same in League Two, as you can imagine. And it feels like there's barely a week that goes by when there isn't an apology afterwards. It's like, well, that's great, but it doesn't do anything to change the result.
We won't get an apology from Saturday. And it's my favourite thing saying that when Peterborough United are losing a game of football, 4 minutes of injury time, usually go up. When Peterborough United are winning a game of football or chasing in a draw or whatever else, that 6 to 9 minutes go up. It's the same thing every time.
Consistency. So do we need, obviously we've had VAR in the Premier League for a while, and that's obviously got its detractors and its promoters, but do we need to take more of the match day management away from the official in the middle and reduce kind of their focus?
I love VAR, but I think we have to help them. We have to make them better. We have to sit with a referee on Saturday and go, look, is it because it was Bolton? Is it because there's a big crowd? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? Or, why weren't you consistent with this? Peterborough United's biggest centre half who scores goals from set pieces was rugby tackled in every corner. You pretty much stood next to him and watched it happen and did nothing. But then in the 97.5 minute, 90 seconds over time allowed, you've deemed something that happened to a Bolton player as a penalty. What was the difference? What were you thinking? So let me ask you this. If it was the 97 minute, it was in the Bolton box, and that happened again with one of our players, would you blow whistle for full time and ignore the penalty shout? Be consistent.
Yeah.
Be consistent.
We find, and maybe it's just that everyone feels that the referees are against them, but what we find is,
I don't think it's that.
You have people coming to Valley Parade and proving themselves that they are not going to be swayed by the crowd. So they're used to,
it's the other way.
Officiating in front of 2,000 and 3,000, and they're going to prove a point that they're not going to let the crowd influence them.
I wish I had that at Birmingham. I wish I had that at Bolton, but I'm not agreeing. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so I don't know. Howard Webb did a thing on the Gary Neville football show. I forget what it's called. Whatever it's called on YouTube. And he was and he said he bottles some decisions early days as a referee because of the atmosphere, because of the players who were running him on the pitch. I'm not saying the referee on Saturday bottled it. I'm just saying that, if he looks in the mirror, he'll say that wasn't right what happened. The whole chain of events, right up to his linesman who should have been in line when the penalty was saved and seen the handball and seen what happened, but he was running back to the halfway line. So, little things like that. We just want the best. We're paying people for a service. I like to get what I pay for. And I just think we've fallen below that, with 19 years, I'm saying it to you, the standard has to be better. But I also appreciate and empathize that it's a really, really tough job and they're really brave people who take it on. So I don't want the headlines to be that I'm piling on referees. I'm not. I want the full context of what I'm saying put out there.
Yeah,
I know they have a tough gig. How do we help them be better? That's all I'm saying.
You think about the pathways and how easy it probably, because it's even worse. If you're refereeing at on the playing fields, I think of where I played, when I was younger.
People are getting abused. I see the stuff out there. Like I think Alan Swan retweets a lot of stuff about referees, and I see some young referees, the crap that they get and whatever. And I'm not advocating for that at all. I don't like I think he booked a lot of our players at full time because they were so angry about what happens. Sometimes as a referee, you're kind of like, just get out of there. Leave the players to moan and bitch because you manage the moment. They've just fought for 97 minutes. You've just ripped their heart out. Expect them to be a little bit angry. I know you want respect, but respect's a two-way thing. So sometimes you want somebody to be big enough to go, whoa, you back off, I'm going. And off you go, And again, I'm not advocating to abuse referees. I don't like that. Rarely in 20 years as a football club owner, I think I've been charged once for making a funny comment about balls and melons on Twitter about a referee, and that was like 15 years ago. You don't hear me constantly bitching about referees. I admonished Steve Evans recently about it, and whatever else. So I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying I want to help them. I want the standard to be better. I want to give them better fucking whatever we've got to do to make it better for them. But what I don't do is I don't adhere to anyone at lower league level, at grassroots level, abusing young referees or people who want to be referees. I have a lot of respect for people who want to be a referee. It's a thankless task. All I ask is for them to be better. How do we make them better? What have we got to do as clubs? Do we have to do all of us collectively have to put 10 grand in the pot each to make, what do we got to do?
Yeah, because certifications or more training.
I want to help. I want to improve it. I just want I've always said I want our product to be better. I want Sky to do a better job producing our product with the commentary and the way the games are done. I want the style of football to be better. I want our facilities to be better. I want our referees to be better. I just think a better product means more revenue, more money, more success, more shared success. I've always said this. That's all I want. This isn't me calling out referees and saying they're this, that, or the other. I'm not. I'm being respectful and doing it in the right way and just saying let's acknowledge that we're not at our best in that area. And every ounce of our product, where are we not at our best and how can we improve it? And if my football club's every week dealing turgid shit on the football pitch product wise, I don't mind being called out and say, hey, you've got to improve the product you're putting out there. So that's all I want. I just want it to be better. So let's move on to the mighty Bradford.
Well, and just to close, you need to get a clean sheet, I think, sooner than later to like as a baseline for knowing that you can kind of build from that.
Saturday was great. Great. Forget about Newport in the cup. That's the cup. But Saturday was great. But Saturday told me, you know what? We got some good defenders. We do. Yeah. Our central midfielders put their bodies on the line. Our fucking goalkeeper's super talented. We're going to get clean sheets. And I'll tell you right now, when we get one, we're probably going to get 5, 6, 7, and 10 games. And I know that's around the corner. And when we've got first choice full-backs that are back that can compete with the current full-backs and push them on to a higher standard, I think we'll get a settled back four, and I think we'll be very strong. And I think right now our defenders are learning on the job. George Nevitt on Tuesday, phenomenal. 18 years old, left-footed centre-half. What a passer. Our best passing centre-back. We're like a different team. But probably defensively is his weakest area at the moment because he's got so much to learn and catch up. This season was meant to be about he would get 20-odd games playing EFL trophy games, cup games, this, that, whatever else. And, but he's going to be a phenomenal defender for us. as good as Ronnie, and that's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on him. But I remember what Ronnie was like at 18. He wasn't phenomenal defensively. He had all those attributes, and then he had to learn that side of the game. So I do. I think Oscar, great signing from Sweden. He's played football for 10 months. He's fucking knackered. And Manny has just been an absolute standout this season. If I told you he was looking at Manny last week when I was there at Blackpool, your head would spin. Manny's got all the attributes to be as good as he wants to be. So we have some good pieces defensively. Young Dinelli, our right back. If he can sort out this nonsense where he's gone off the pitch with cramp after 58 minutes, and get his fitness sorted out again, he could be anything, young JD. So it's not like we've just got a lot of collective shit defenders. We don't. It just looks like that on paper. Your front four taking all the headlines in the games that you're doing really well, and then maybe the back line aren't getting the credit they deserve, and they deserve the clean sheet on Saturday, and that's why I'm gutted for them. But it's going to happen. So I'm always the optimist.
And I do just, before we finally wrap, I want to ask you about Kwame Poku. So obviously he got a lot of the headlines for the Blackpool game, and renewed. Well, I don't think renewed. There's always interest in Kwame for who he is and what he can do, and kind of the next one in the production line, so to speak, to step up. How are you feeling about where he is, and
best player in the league?
Of him?
Yeah, it's ridiculous he's still with us. He's a victim of we were only going to sell two big assets in the summer.
Yeah,
because he could play higher and higher. He's at a different level. The things he was doing against Blackpool, it's the best I've seen him. He was going around 8-9 players at a time. I think he's playing at a different level. What I love about Qualms is, he probably, in the summer, maybe sulked a little bit about, is he going to get a move? He's not going to get a move. And the manager spoke to him, and he's taking it on, and he's been our best player, and he's been consistent, he's been reliable, he's been ever present. He's in a great place. And yes, he's, his contract situation, he's under 24. We're going to get millions for Kwame when he leaves. And we're not losing sleep about Qualms. We want Qualms to get us promotion. I could probably offer him, Brewster's billions, and he'll want to move on to a massive club. That's just the facts of life. He's been with us for nearly 4 years now. I can't say enough good things about Kwame. He deserves to win promotion and win Player of the Year and take Harrison's trophy from last year, because he's been that bloody good in League One. He's unplayable at times. And I'm going to also give credit to Malik Mothersille, who I said to Malik the other day, when you come out on Twitter and give it to people, you got to be able to do it when you lose. So you can't just talk when you win. But I'm seeing that little arrogance you need in wide players. And I'm seeing something in Malik that he's gone from being number 9 to playing in Efron's position. And when he's good, he's very good. When he's not so good, he's not so good. But when he's good, but again, he's just turned 21 the other day. We forget Malik was 19 when we signed him. And, he's probably played, 20 league games his whole career. He's a frightening prospect, So, and it was Joel Randall's best game against Blackpool. There are a lot of good signs. And unfortunately on Saturday, the front four will all agree they were way below their standard collectively. There wasn't any of them that were any good, and they'll be the first to say that. And I think they were pretty apologetic to the back line that, they certainly didn't help in the game by not scoring. And that's something we got to crack now going away from home. We've got to start going to places like that, and we've got to start winning games. And that's how you make the strides. I think first clean sheet, first win against a promotion rival away. Those building blocks for a young group is right, we're learning on the job. We've done it once, now we can do it again. So, we've got a great camp, and I'm very optimistic. So, on to the Bantams.
Yeah, so
how was your week?
We had a mixed bag. So we beat Gillingham 2-1. Coming from a goal down, that was a really good result. We then drew away in midweek at Cheltenham 1-1, which took the lead. They had, a 25-yarder that we couldn't really do much about. And I think this is one of the games I missed, but I read that we were a lot stronger in the second half, and could have been we could have come away with that with a win as well. So we were on a bit of a run going into that, and 4th place in the table, feel good factor back. Suddenly people not talking about sacking Graham Alexander and kicking Ryan out. And then it all came to a screeching halt against Doncaster on Saturday, which, biggest game of the season. Billed as a Yorkshire derby, but I think that's clutching at straws a little bit. But nearly 20,000 there. I didn't see the full gate, and it was a good game. It wasn't a League Two game. So
were Donny good?
Yes, I mean Donny deserved to win, I would say. They At halftime, I think at halftime it was something like they'd had 20 shots and we'd had 12 or
Oh,
something.
Jesus, what a game!
So, we're both kind of peppering the goal. They took their chances, we didn't. Of course, it's Billy Sharp who ends up getting the winner,
Oh no!
as it always is against us at Valley Parade. It's the reactions of, and I can see both point of views. On one hand, we could have got a 2-2 if we'd have taken our chances. A draw may have been a fair result. And on the other hand, some people saying, well, they completely did us with tactics, and it could have been a lot more because they did have a lot more shots.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be up there. So that was kind of like your first test against a really top side, right? And a kind of a top of the table clash.
Yeah, and when to talk about injuries, we're still missing a bunch of players. We're missing a bunch, in the kind of not necessarily strikers, but kind of the line below. So we've still got Sasovic out, we got Patterson out. So there's some creativity that's not there. We're still struggling to find any strike partner for Andy Cook. So no matter how many times we've tried different players, there just isn't really much of a connection there with a partnership.
Right.
So it's still been all on his shoulders, of which he has. Would
you be brave enough to do what we did and take a Clark Harris out of your team and play with two completely different strikers to change the way you played to finally move past Andy Cook? Or is it too early?
I know we've talked about that a little bit.
That's what we did last year. That was like the massive decision to do that.
I think that not yet. But the reason I say not yet, the reason why I think when you look at it, when you did it, it wasn't necessarily as big of a risk is because you were confident in the talent that was going to come in to replace in the system. That you had the best players in League One, or some of the best players in League One to do that.
I've seen your attackers. You could easily play with two quicker, mobile players up there and play to that. Again, it comes down to at what stage of the club and what you want. You know what I mean? And getting your fans on board with it.
I think some of the challenge at the moment is you look and there's no confidence in some of those other strikers. Kavanagh looks like he couldn't hit a barn door at the moment. Sanderson, when he came in, looked pretty tidy, and then he was back out again. For what reason, I don't really know. I don't think he did much wrong. So they tried Tyler Smith this weekend. That didn't really work, but that's not worked last season either.
Yeah.
So Sanderson's probably next in line to get back in and have another pop at it. I think that you probably had the benefit of previous success and trust and confidence in that's the right way to go. Whereas you do it and it doesn't work, and all of a sudden all the knives are out for everybody within.
Yeah, I guess so. You got to choose your moment. You got to be brave, and you got to tell people why you're doing it and what you're doing. And don't forget we dropped a double Golden Boot winner for somebody with one goal every 6 games.
Yeah.
So, but it was more designed around improving that player, but also the style of play changed.
Yeah,
it wasn't so target man centric.
And those were your players.
Yes,
well,
100%. Yes, I understand totally what you're saying. Not all of those players are your players, are they? That would come in and play. So, I get it. Look, probably too soon. I guess at some stage you got to look at, you got a veteran of that age and they're up there, and the team's reliant on them all the time. It's like, I don't know. It's like someone who constantly needs a drink. Constantly reliant on it. At some stage, you've got to go cold turkey, haven't you?
Yeah.
And it's like, because that person can't go on forever. But who am I to talk about other teams' tactics? That's up to Bradford to do that.
Yeah, I think that given the lack of success we've had the last few years, if you look at him and you start seeing, he's not as fit as he was, and he's missing more of his chances, and he's on a trajectory to get 15 goals this season rather than 25 goals this season, then maybe those are all signs which make you feel a bit more confident in saying, okay, now's maybe the time to start thinking about the future. At the moment he looks in the fittest shape he's been for years, and he has been banging them in. So I think he's got 10 already. So it's hard to. That's
not an issue with your team.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think there's an issue.
No, you're doing well. You're doing bloody well.
It's a good playoff level team that you get the injuries back and you click, and top 3 should certainly not be out of our.
Nobody's running away with the league, right?
No, well, Port Vale at the moment. So I looked at the table just this morning for the first time for a little while. And there is a bit of a gap. So, there's a bit of a gap forming, but it's still, where are we? I'm looking at League One. So if I look at League Two here, You got Port Vale top on 30, Walsall, Notts County, Doncaster 26, Crewe 24, us and Chesterfield 22. So, 4 points from third, 8 points from top at the moment.
Yeah. It's not insurmountable. So, wide open league. I mean, yeah, interesting. What else is going on? What other headlines have we got?
We had Man City back on top.
Surprise.
I know. For how long can this... I mean, all dynasties end at some point. But it feels like we're at the beginning rather than the end still, doesn't it?
Well, they're missing their best player who's out for the season, know, and it's like I was talking the other day, and, they don't miss a beat, do they? And, it's a testament to how good Guardiola is that the appetite and hunger to keep winning just stays there. Usually with any dynasty, there's a period of 3, 4, 5 years. In NFL, it's kind of 4 or 5 years. In football terms, Liverpool, the great team Liverpool had was 10, 12, 15 years, I think it was. But, one loss. Man United over 20 years since the Premier League started, again, lost titles to Arsenal, lost titles to whatever. I mean, this thing just doesn't seem to have an end goal. No. I know Guardiola's not contracted past the end of the season, but I can't really see him going anywhere. Because the thing you'd say to Pep Guardiola is, where do you go after Man City? Like, he's still young, he's still vivacious, he's still energetic. Where does he go? I mean, he's at the best club in the world for what he wants to do. It's his club. It's his. He's rebuilt it in his own. What's the word? In his way,
his image.
His image. It's Pep Guardiola's football club. So I don't know. And the fact that I don't think they're worried about him staying on. He'll stay on. I think he'll extend. And that's bad news for Liverpool, and it's bad news for everyone else. And then you go, are Arsenal never going to get a chance to win the league? Right. So I don't really know where it looks like it's Man City are locking up things for the next foreseeable future. I think they'll win the treble this year.
Yeah, it's you obviously had your draw with Arsenal yesterday. One of the things that I saw that came across Twitter this morning as I was scrolling was someone suggesting. Well, no, it was actually someone suggesting that Trent Alexander-Arnold's season so far has been similar to Steve McManaman's last season before he left, and that maybe this is the time when Trent may be coming towards the end of his Liverpool career. And I just wondered what you might think of that kind of thinking.
I'd be concerned because he's basically 2.5 months away from being able to sign in January for a European supergiant like Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And, my worry would be, say, Alonso goes to Real Madrid next summer, because I'm not sure Ancelotti will go past this year at Madrid. They've got young Galacticos now. They're young players. It's a young team. Trent could go there. He talked about wanting to win the Ballon d'Or. I am concerned about that. I'm concerned more about him than Salah and Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk will sign. I think Salah will go. And I think right now you would have to do everything to break the bank to keep Trent, because he's the next captain of Liverpool after Van Dijk retires. He's a Gerrard-type player. But how far does he want to go? Does he want to have a Bellingham career? Does he want to play at the biggest clubs in the world? He's finally in the England team. I wouldn't begrudge him going to Real Madrid. I'd begrudge the fact we don't get a fee. Begrudge the fact that we're not going to get the 100 million that he's worth. And, that would, irritate me. But again, that's football. That happens. We have players with contracts and they run them down. You can't always make it happen, but we're not Liverpool. We don't have their riches. But I certainly would have broken the bank and had him signed up last summer. Yeah. And if you wanted to leave in the future, and I would have compromised and put a release clause in there for him to go to certain clubs down the line. So that's a concern, and I think he's playing some of his best football again on Saturday. He sets up the equaliser. No right back in the world does what he does. And I've been saying it forever. England are lucky to have him. Stop wasting him and just play him. And start worrying about what he can't do and focus on the things he can do. So, he's coming to the peak of his powers. His best football's ahead of him. So that'll be an absolute fucking gutter when he leaves Liverpool. I'm also happy for the goalkeeper, because we know Alisson the last few years is kind of semi-made of glass, where he's not reliable to play 50 games a year, and he always seems to have some muscle injuries. So if I were Liverpool, the fact that you've seen, Kelleher come in and do well, they've bought a new goalie. If they could cash in on Alisson in January or next summer to Saudi, take the money. It's time to move on. Players he's been a legend for us, but it's good business now to move on, in my opinion. Yeah. But Liverpool are in good shape. Slot needs support financially. He's 1 or 2 pieces away from being a proper Premier League challenger. And I think he needs that support. You worry if Liverpool got 3 or 4 more injuries. Jota already is out again. He can never play 10 games in a row. He's another one that's kind of, you could question on the, how many games you're going to get out of him a year. There are areas in that team that he will slot will definitely need help in. So, but what a start it's been for him, and that was a good result. Even though Arsenal were down to defensive bare bones and whatever, we weren't at our best yesterday. But we had the bottling character to come back in the game twice against a title rival away from home, take the point, move on, and keep going.
And it's very unusual for a manager to come in and follow a legend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Kind of continue and even build on what was there before.
But credit to Klopp as well. He laid the foundation for Liverpool version 3 or version 2 of his reign, where they'd done some good business last year. They still had a lot of key pieces. Slots walked in there. You've got characters like Van Dijk, Salah in the team. A re-energized midfield. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Konate coming into his own. He had a lot of good pieces in there. I was never fooled in thinking he was never going to be anything but top 4 and competing. He would have been maybe a failure if he wasn't. So it's interesting. So, but fair play to him. I like him. I like his character. I like his personality. I think he's very. You get a lot of Dutch managers, and they're very dry and they're very whatever. He's kind of the opposite of that. So I think he's a great fit.
You mentioned Real Madrid. Did you see the Real Madrid Barca?
My daughter watched the game. Yeah. I didn't see any of it. Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with Madrid. I don't know with all the pieces they've got. I don't know what's happening. I'd seen midweek when we beat Blackpool, they're 2-0 down in a game in the Champions. They ended up winning 5-2, but it was a slow start. So I don't know what's happening there. I'm not versed enough in Spanish football to be, within, well, if they've got injuries, if they've got issues, if they're not going to be able to get Mbappe going in the team, and they're struggling to get all those pieces into an 11. I don't know, but to get beaten like that in a Classico is not good for Ancelotti.
Not at home. It's embarrassing, isn't it? Especially because Barca have been, struggling and slated to struggle for longer. But
it looks like La Liga is already over. So, so if Ancelotti doesn't deliver another Champions League this year, like I said to you, it could be his time to go next year, and then you'll see maybe an Alonso go there. He ain't going to Liverpool, so he'll go to Real Madrid as long as United don't nick in and get him.
Yeah. Just looking at the Premier League, starting to look at the table, and it's not looking pretty for Southampton already. Although, it's only 5 points, but only 1 point from 9 so far. Wolves only 2 points from 9.
I said it last year, and I'll say it again. I respect Russell Martin. I respect what he wants to do. People are taking shots at him for not changing. What is he meant to do? Is he meant to get 2 target men in this team, play 4-4-2 and start piling the ball into the box and try and be a Burnley back in the day? Okay. You have that manager for a reason. He wants to have the philosophy at the football club. Whether they go down, Southampton will win the championship next year. So even if he loses every game, you stick with him. I don't think anyone else is going to go in there and keep Southampton up. It's not like they went out and spent 100 million in the summer.
Yeah.
Let's behave for a moment. Your Ipswich, who you would say is your rival down there, went out and spent probably 100 million more than you in the summer. So, and they're not exactly flying either, are they? So
they got 4 points from 9.
Yeah. So let's protect one of our gifted young managers like we would Kieran McKenna. Nobody's calling for Kieran McKenna's head, are they? But they're calling for Russell Martin's head. So at the end of the day, give him time. He will turn it. If you give him time and he cracks, I think if Southampton win 1, they'll win 3 or 4 in a row. And I think they'll be one of those late teams that they'll pass somebody to death. Don't forget, after Christmas, you've got tired legs. Teams like that who control and dominate games, passing you to death, start winning games late in the second half of the season. So the Southampton hierarchy, of anything about them, stick with it and watch it turn.
If yo-yo is a strategy, between Championship and Premier League,
sometimes it has to be.
Should that be stated so that there's a realistic level of expectation, or does that suggest you giving up before you've even started?
No, I don't think it should be stated, but I think it should be known and it should be understood by a fan base that the Premier League is the toughest league in the world to stay in. And it's sometimes like West Brom back in the day, who went up and down like 4 or 5 times and then stayed in the Premier League for 8-9 years. It's like they cracked it. If you go back to Fulham 5-6 years ago, Fulham went up and down, I think, twice or 3 times. And now look at them now. They've established themselves in the Premier League. Sometimes it takes time. Not everyone can be Brentford. Not everyone can just crack it like that and stay in the Premier League. So, it might take a minute. I'm fully behind Russell Martin. I just think he's such a gifted young manager, and it would be a colossal mistake to get rid of him. He went to Man City on Saturday, didn't change the way they played. And it's great taking plaudits for how you play. We're trying to do the same. And probably not enough. I'd probably complain this season we haven't done it enough, where we've tried to play our game and we've tried to change and whatever. I want us to do what we do. I want us to stay the same style-wise. I want us to try and develop our football club's brand under what we do, and as a formation, as a brand, as a style. I don't want it to change. And yes, results are always important at a football club, but for me, the substance, the style, the brand of what we do is what's going to grow our brand as a football club and our crowd base. We're bringing young players through, we're exciting them with academy players, we're trying to score goals, we're trying to play football on the front foot, keep it on the floor. There's a certain thing we're trying to do. If we throw all that out the window and go down a different route, we lose that momentum. So sometimes you have to not ignore results, but you have to be more patient with the results in the process. So I'm hoping Southampton in the hierarchy are with Russell because he deserves the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and you look at middle of the Premier League right now, from 6 down, you got Brighton, Notts Forest, you got Spurs in the middle there, you got Brentford, you got Fulham, you got Bournemouth.
Yep.
You got all these teams that have come up and ultimately been able to establish themselves. It just doesn't happen overnight.
But don't forget, Bournemouth went in and got the foreign manager, and he's a certain style in the way he plays. They spent over 125 million in one window. I don't know what Southampton net spent last year, but it wasn't anywhere near that. So there's a story to tell every time you look. The Brighton manager this summer, again, Brighton have a great recruitment history. They go out and they spend money. They bring loads of money in. And I think this summer they spent a hell of a lot of money for their young manager going in there. Nottingham Forest were criticised for spending 140 million on 28 players. Who's criticising Nottingham Forest now in their own?
Yeah.
They're like top 10. They're comfortable. They're winning games.
Yeah, they lost one so far this season.
Yeah, they got the league. They beat Liverpool at Anfield. They got the leading goal scorer in the Premier League. Is anyone having a go at the Greek owner now about his scattergun approach and signing 50 players? He had to change that football club based on one promotion, top to bottom. And everyone was quick to go, oh, another signing, oh, another 5 signings, oh, this is happening, oh, that's happening. It was constant criticism. I said the same about Chelsea in the summer on TalkSport. Everyone says never going to be good. They're not going to be up there. They're signing too many players. Now all of a sudden, Chelsea look a bloody good team on the eye, dominate football games possession-wise. Ask Newcastle fans how good Chelsea were on the weekend. So again, it's short-termism. We are in football where we just go, oh, that's not happening. Let's turn the page. They tried to do it last year at Russell when he didn't start well at Southampton. Yeah. And I said at the time, he's going to win a lot of games and they're going to go up. And I was proved right. And I hope to prove right this time. And equally, I want Ipswich to start winning games. I want them to stay up. I want young English managers to do well. I don't want them to be fired. I don't want them the next big foreign convoy coming in to save one of those clubs. And again, another English. It's the reason you couldn't hire an English manager for the England job.
I was going to say that. We're lamenting that there's no English managers for England job.
Because there's only 4 or 5 managers in the Premier League, and some of them have been around since the start of time, like Sean Dyche. So, you want fresh young English managers doing bloody well. And you don't want to keep replacing them with someone from Holland or someone from Germany or someone from whatever. I want the best of British managing in the Premier League. And there's a few of them in the champ who are next up as well. So I want that to go well.
Well, when we look at the Championship, Sunderland are
flying.
Flying top of the table, 5 points clear, 9 wins in 12, and Burnley, kind of not hanging on, but Burnley in second, Leeds on third, both on 23. Sheffield United on 22 at the moment.
Yeah, I need Sheffield United to fly. I have a million reasons for them to do well. So I need them to go up with whoever else probably leads. That's who I need to happen there. But yeah, Sunderland, fair play, sold their best player, new manager, gone in, and it's just been like he's been there forever.
And Cardiff show how quickly things can turn around. I think the last time we looked at the tables, they were rock bottom, and we're saying, "Oh, it's looking a bit grim for their start of the season."
Yeah.
Now they're 20th. They got. They haven't lost in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and things looking a little bit rosier than it was a few weeks ago.
And give Wayne Rooney credit. He's like the late show over there at Plymouth, isn't it? You can't take your eyes off their games. The amount of late goals scored at their place is incredible. 3-0 down, 3-3 against Preston North End. I think it was Preston. And they're absolutely flying. So now the Championship's interesting, and don't discount Norwich and Middlesbrough. It's probably one of the strongest championship for years. I don't even want to talk about League One, by the way. So,
well, maybe one thing I talked about, but I'm enjoying seeing Paul Heckingbottom and Stuart McCall doing well at Preston. Always, obviously, want to see Stuart doing well. And,
you like Stuart?
They got their new job there earlier in the season. I actually used to live about 2-minute walk away from Deepdale as well.
Oh, fair play. Fair play.
So always had a little bit of a soft spot.
There you go, Preston fans. Long may it continue.
Yeah. So League One, all I was going to ask you about is Burton. So they had all the change in the summer. It seemed like they were signing a player every single day.
Yeah.
12 in, they haven't won yet, 4 points.
I haven't seen any of their football. I don't know the style. I don't know what was happening there. I don't know what the remit was. I don't know what the project was. So it'd be tough for me to comment. Yeah. If the remit was change the style, play a certain way, go down the youth-based thing and whatever else, and the style was good, but they were losing games, luckily, then I would say bad decision. If they were getting battered every game, the style wasn't any good, there was panic setting in, then it maybe is the right decision. You can't criticize new owners. They're new to the football game and they're thinking we spent a hell of a lot of money in the summer and we're getting no return for our money. So that's probably why they've made the decision.
Yeah. And actually, just as I look at the table, I want to shout out for Cambridge. 3 wins in the last 3. You've got them next in the league. And after a really terrible start for the season. So they've at least put a little bit of form back together. Hopefully that ends in the next, next game.
Derby game.
And I look at the other side of the table. You talked about the defeat to Wycombe. Well, Wycombe are second place, only 3 points off Birmingham. So they've had a really good start to the season.
Flying.
And Mansfield, I want to shout out as well in fourth.
Mansfield are the biggest shout out because, they lost some good players in the summer. They weren't expected to do what they did. I think they took a point from Birmingham on Saturday. Really strong side, really experienced, I think. Difficult place to go to. Nigel's fine. Fair play to the Mansfield owners and fair play to Nigel and the staff.
Yeah, and then we talked a little bit about League 2 earlier with Port Vale on top. At the bottom, Morecambe and Carlisle still struggling. And I saw people turning against Mike Williamson already at Carlisle.
Difficult to do that. He's got a certain way of playing. I think he's going to need a transfer window to really change what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be very unfair to dump him so soon. If he's trying to play his, Hollywood football or champagne football from the back, and he needs 4 or 5 players to do that, I think very, very difficult to hire a guy like that with 4 months to go in the window opens and suddenly expect it to happen overnight. I am very surprised they've struggled with the squad going down and the money they spent. So who knows what's going on there.
What's the fastest that you've ever hired somebody and thought, crap, was that a mistake?
It's never been like that. Like we a few years ago, I got rid of our academy guy was manager and I brought in Graham Wesley Medals, but I had McCann as his assistant and we knew we had certain players for a different style. And once we adapted to the style, we flew. We were one of the best teams up till Christmas, and then we lost a couple of key pieces. But, I mean, we've all made mistakes. I don't think any of the managers, bar Mark Cooper, was probably the most instant one. I thought, style of football, type of person, just wasn't for me. That was probably the only one I thought I'd made a serious error here.
Well, we've got a couple of questions just to wrap up on. We have one from Paul and one who's a Posh fan, one from Charlie, a Stoke fan. They're kind of talking about the same. So I'll go with what Charlie asked, more specifically, who was a Stoke fan. He said, the recent shock sacking of Steven Schumacher and his staff got me thinking about their payoffs. Can you please explain to me how compensation for sacked managers and coaching staff is typically calculated and paid?
So it's in line with compensation, maybe sometimes too, when you lose a manager. So a lot of the time you can have clauses in there where if you're going to fire a manager, you got to pay them a year's severance. And sometimes that year's severance would be payable over 12 months. Say a manager's on 500 grand. The minute you fire him, that 40 grand a month, you're going to keep paying for 12 months. But you put in the contract, the minute he gets a new job, you stop paying as long as he's getting the same money that he was getting previously.
Well, you pay the difference if he's paying.
You pay, and some managers, as I've seen recently, can be clever and get their new club basically to screw the old club and take a pay cut for the first year and what's left of their contract with your club. So that can happen. You can get fucked. Other things you can put in there that, if you're not within the playoffs within 6 months of the manager being there, you could sack them for less money.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and also then you have, if somebody wants your manager, you can have a compensatory amount. You never end up paying the full term of the contract. So if the Stoke manager had 3 years left, he ain't getting 3 years pay. There's always a lot less. And that's just the way it is. So don't think that you're going to be carrying 3. Like the NFL, you have to pay the full term.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, the Las Vegas Raiders right now are paying for 3 former head coaches. They're still paying John Gruden's 10-year contract. They're still paying Josh McDaniels, the ex-Patriots coach, who's head coach. He's got 2 years left on his contract, and they're paying for the new coach. Yeah. So they are paying the salary. And what happens in the NFL, very cleverly, those coaches who are fired end up taking minor jobs like an assistant coach or a defensive coordinator and work for free at other clubs because their salary has been paid in full. So it's very different in the NFL. It's part of that.
So someone wants to hire them again by the time that the deal runs out.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like the bargaining agreement with the players and the staff. That's what was worked out. So it is very different in football. Some clubs I've even heard that there was only 3 months severance lower down the pyramid. Some people are desperate for a job. They'll take a job with the proviso that if you're no good, you can get sacked with 3 months' money. With the type of manager we've always hired, we've never been in that position. I guess if you're taking a punt on a younger coach, you can put in there in case it is a bad decision. Look, if it doesn't work out, 3 months, I'm paying you up and you're gone. You know, so a lot of the time, that's what you do with staff who are not first-team management staff. So a lot of normal staff will have 90 days, and it'll be the same compensation if somebody nicks your staff. They've got to pay you 90 days to take them. So that's how it can work as well.
Yeah, and I've certainly heard from us, the range of you got to pay the year to you're not on the hook to pay anything, and it's kind of mutually agreed that.
That's what Steve Evans took the Gillingham job, and we stopped paying him because his Gillingham, to be fair to them, and I'll give him the credit that the minute he went in their payroll, it was pretty much the same money he was on with us, and we just stopped paying. Our other manager, obviously, we ended up paying for the assistant and him for a lot longer. Yeah, so that can happen too.
A question, let's wrap up on this from Ben. Ben's a Birmingham fan. He says, I know that DMAC supports the Bristol Street Motors Trophy a lot.
Oh, yeah.
What are his thoughts on under 21 teams in it, and that my team, Birmingham, are getting called scabs for selling out the away game at Shrewsbury and not boycotting it?
If Birmingham took 4,000 fans to a Bristol Street Motors game for us and gave us a 60 or an 80 grand payday, I wouldn't be calling them scabs. I'd be calling them heroes. So that's my feeling on that. It's the greatest trophy we've got to go and win. We won it last season. I'm sick of hearing about the under 21 issue and the boycott. It's a load of bollocks, because if we end up playing Bradford at Wembley, it'll be a 50,000 crowd. If we ended up playing Birmingham at Wembley, it'd probably be 80,000. Yeah. So that's £1 million payday for any club that participates. That's good for your club. How can that be bad for your club? So we had a phenomenal run last year. We hope to have another one this year. I can only endorse that trophy. I love that trophy.
And at this point, it's not going to change. Like, not attending those games is not going to change.
It's an oxymoron. Birmingham fans want to support their team winning. If they want to go away to Shrewsbury and they've got this feel-good factor going on at the moment, why do they need to worry about what people think of the under-21 trophy? Yeah. So if they went and sold down, they're being called scabs. Ignore the noise. Ignore the noise, Birmingham fans. And if we draw you in the cup, I want you to bring 4,000 or 5,000. We'll probably have a good bit of the stadium we can give you.
Yeah, I can say you might even get a few more seats.
Don't complain if I charge 40 quid a ticket, though.
Always the capitalist.
Absolutely. Listen, we're in the business of, like, we have to bring revenue in. So no, and anyone who's calling them scabs, who ends up drawing them in the FA Cup, and they bring 4,000 and fill coffers and make you 100+ grand and get you on TV, you're going to be appreciative. So you're going to be kind of eating your scab words. I hate shit like that.
All right, well, let's wrap up for this week.
Let's wrap it up, baby. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Of course, any more questions, send them over to contact@hardtruthfootball.com or pop them on in any of the social channels, and we will we'll get them on the list. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.